I'd like to start this episode with a story. And I specifically want to tell a successful story, because it would be easier to just pick a story of a failed AI project. So imagine this. A team is building an AI pilot, and they're doing everything right. They focus on and choose the real business value. They involve the right people in the project from the very start. The data which the AI agent will be using is clean. The scoped implementation process is well understood. And all the needed controls and control mechanisms are in place. And the pilot works, not just as a shiny demo for a steering committee. It actually works. People use it because it genuinely saves them time. Company leadership is impressed, and everyone agrees they should be doing more of it. The time passes, and a few months later, the project team goes back to other priorities. The sponsor gets promoted into a different role. The engineer who actually built the agent leaves the company. And new initiatives keep arriving the way they always do. So now nobody is really looking after it anymore. The business keeps changing, regulations change, and small issues begin to appear. Nothing dramatic, but just some little signs that the system isn't quite keeping up. People start using it less, not because it stopped working, but because it slowly became less useful than it used to be. Then a year later, someone is gonna ask the question, hey, what happened to that AI project? And someone else will answer that they think it's probably still running. Or maybe, actually, hang on a minute, did we not stop using it? Now, I want you to notice something here. Because the project didn't fail. It did not crash. There was no security incident whatsoever. Nobody ever made a decision to pull the plug. What actually happened is that it never found a permanent home inside the organization. And this is far more common than most people realize. Successful pilots don't usually just die because the technology failed them. They disappear because nobody ever owned what happened after the success. And this is exactly what this final episode is about. Because the first 4 layers answered questions like, hey, can we use AI at all? Can we trust the data underneath it? Can we standardize the work it runs on? And can we operate the whole thing safely once it's live? But there is one final question still sitting there. And that question is to make sure that all of that is still true 18 months from now. And this is layer 5, the operating model. Because building an AI system is a project, while on the other side, keeping it valuable is an operational capability. And these two, they're very different from one another. I want to show you a pattern. And once you see it, you will start noticing it absolutely everywhere. I bet on it. In ERP rollouts, master data programs, and now AI. The technology keeps changing, but the pattern underneath it never really does. Stage 1 is always the same. Someone finds the money, and it's usually an innovation budget or a transformation line. Money that exists once, designed to start a project, not to operate a service. Next is stage 2, and he's asking the question, is the pilot succeeding? Because pilots are built to succeed, with far more manual work holding it together behind the scenes. Invisible, essential, and never written down. Then comes stage 3, and I genuinely think this is the most dangerous sentence in digital transformation. We always like to say, this is great, let's scale it. It sounds like success, but it's actually where projects start to unravel. Because the word scale changes the question from whether this works to who owns it, who funds it, and who is accountable when it breaks. None of those are technology questions. They are operating model questions. And the honest answer is usually, well, I'm not sure. Because nobody was ever actually given that responsibility. So now we move to stage 4. And this is the quiet ending. Not outage, no announcement. It just loses momentum. Until someone asks, hey, are we still using that AI tool? This is what I call the pilot graveyard. And it isn't full of ideas that failed. It's full of ideas that actually worked, but were never given a permanent home. They had a sponsor, but not an owner. They had project funding but not operational funding. And this is exactly the gap Layer 5 is designed to close. Because success isn't measured by whether your pilot launches. It is measured whether people still rely on it, long after everyone stopped paying attention. Okay, let's pause on something that gets overlooked in almost every conversation about AI. People spend enormous amount of time and energy asking, can we actually build this? And that's the easy question now. Because almost any organization can build a pilot. That's not the problem. Building something impressive is no longer the hard part. Keeping it valuable actually is. So here is the question I always ask instead. What actually happens on an ordinary Tuesday, 18 months from now on, when the excitement is gone and the AI is simply part of how business operates? Now, imagine something changes. A business rule, a supplier's data, a regulation. Who notices that? Who decides whether the AI needs to change? And who actually owns the outcome? And here is the part that matters most. The person who originally built it is no longer there. And it doesn't matter why. Because mature operations never depend on one single individual. If the success of your AI still depends on one person who built it, you haven't built an operational capability, let's be crystal clear. You built a dependency. And that dependency is not gonna scale. This is exactly why I say this. If you don't have a clear answer for that ordinary Tuesday, you don't have an AI capability. You have an AI event. And events have beginning, they go through some excitement, and then they end. Capabilities survive changing priorities, leadership, staff turnover, because they are no longer someone's project. They are just simply how business works. If you have been following this series, you might remember something from episode 1. I said AI is a capability you stand up, not a tool you install. Think about the word install. When you install a software, this is an event. You plan it, you execute it, and everyone moves on. Because an installation has an end date, while an operating capability doesn't. Now, think about the finance function in your own company. Nobody ever says, well, we installed finance back in Q3, and that's done now. Because this would sound ridiculous. Finance exists every single day. It has a budget, it has leadership, a roadmap, and it keeps adapting as the business changes. Finance isn't a project, it's a capability. None of those functions survive because they once had a successful launch. They survive because the organization gave them a permanent home. So please ask yourself this. Why would something that touches customer service and finance would ever be managed as a temporary initiative? It shouldn't be. Because the moment AI becomes business critical, it stops being an innovation project. And capabilities share certain characteristics. Someone accountable, ongoing funding, a roadmap, and just as importantly, a way to retire things, because not every AI agent should live forever. And a mature operating model knows how to shut one down cleanly when this is necessary. You don't scale AI by building more pilots. You scale it by building an organization that is capable of owning them. This is the bridge between innovation and performance. So let's answer one question. What actually makes an operating model? If AI is a capability, what does that capability actually consist of? There are 5 pieces to it, and none of them are glamorous. None of them involve machine learning, but every mature capability has them. The first one, funding. And I don't mean project funding. I mean operational funding, because those are different things. A project budget normally asks, hey, can we build this? While an operational budget asks, can we keep this healthy? Who's paying for quality usage next year? Who funds the model upgrades? If the honest answer is, well, we'll figure it out later, you don't have an operating model. You have a temporary experiment. The second one is ownership. This is probably the single biggest bottleneck I see. Every capability needs one accountable owner, not 5, not a steering committee. not business, just one person. Shared ownership is no ownership. Because in the end, if everyone assumes someone else owns the AI, nobody actually does. The third one, roadmap. And this is one of the biggest mistakes I see in treating AI as finished, but capabilities don't stand still. Your business keeps changing, your AI has to evolve right along with it. A roadmap isn't a wish list. It's deliberate plan, what gets improved next quarter, what gets retired. Without one, your AI slowly turns into a snapshot of yesterday's business. Number 4, run and maintain. This is the engine room, the least visible work of all 5, and arguably the most important one. Pilots have builders, capabilities have operators, and those are genuinely different roles. Builders create something, operators keep it reliable, monitoring it and responding to incidents. And finally, the 5th one, decommissioning. This one always surprises people. But mature organizations understand that every capability has a life cycle, and not every AI agent deserves to exist forever. The worst outcome was never retiring a system. It is forgetting it exists. Because an abundant AI agent becomes technical debt, and sometimes even a security risk. A mature operating model defines how capabilities live, just as intentionally as how they are created. Look at those 5 things. 5 things together: funding, ownership, roadmap, run and maintain, decommission. And notice that none of them actually is about artificial intelligence. None. They are about operating anything that matters. A pilot doesn't need any of these, because it is temporary by design. But the moment you say, well, we want to scale this, those 5 questions stop being operational. Because without them, your AI has nowhere to live. And if it has nowhere to live, it will always remain a project, never a capability. Every transformation project has 2 kinds of work in it. The work everyone gets excited about, and the work that quietly determines whether any of it survives. The first 4 layers all feel like building governance, data, processes, controls, tangible enough to walk into a board meeting and say, well, here is the AI agent we built. The operating model is different because it doesn't feel like building. It feels like what comes after. And because it feels like later, it is the thing that keeps getting deferred. You cannot take a screenshot of accountability. You can't demo a recurring funding. And you can't show a roadmap the way you can show a chatbot answering a simple question. So the visible work gets prioritized, and the invisible work gets postponed. And that's the actual trap. Because by the time someone asks, who's actually responsible for this now? The knowledge has already walked out the door. And this is exactly why the operating model isn't something you design after a successful pilot. Because the more a business depends on a capability, the more dangerous it is to leave ownership undefined. So here is the idea I'd like you to remember. A pilot proves an idea works. The operating model proves the organization is capable of keeping it working. And in the long run, that's the one that actually matters. I want to zoom out, because this is the last layer of the framework, and I want to show you the whole picture at once, since it is the map this channel builds on. Layer 1, governance. Who decides where AI operates, where it doesn't, and what risk is acceptable? Layer 2, clean data. What the AI is actually reasoning over, because no model produces good outcomes from unreliable information. Layer 3, standardized processes. What you're actually asking the AI to execute, because you can't automate inconsistency. You have to standardize it first. Layer 4, controls. Once AI moves from suggesting to acting, these are the safety systems that keep it inside the lines you've already drawn. Access, audit trails, rollback, monitoring, human oversight. And finally, layer 5, the operating model, the home for all of it. Who owns it, who funds it, who improves it, and who retires it once its job is already done. People often think these 5 layers are separate, but they depend on each other. Governance without clean data still produces poor decisions. Remove one single one, and eventually the whole system weakens. Together, on the other side, they form an operating system for AI. Not a technology stack, an operational one. The first 4 layers help you create it, launch it. The 5th layer asks a more practical question. How do you keep it alive? Because organizations don't actually create value through launches. They create value through sustained execution. And that's what layer 5 ultimately gives you. Not another project, but a place for AI to live, evolve, and keep creating value long after the applause from launch day. I want to leave you with one final comparison. Imagine 2 organizations starting in almost the exact same place. Both organizations identify a valuable use case. They build an AI pilot and prove it works. Leadership is excited. Users like it, and on paper, they've both succeeded. But down the line, their stories couldn't be more different. The first organization treated the pilot as the finish line, and then everyone went back to their daily jobs. The funding ended. Nobody was responsible. There wasn't a roadmap or an operational budget, and nobody was monitoring whether the AI still delivers value. The business kept evolving, but the AI didn't, and people trusted it less until someone quietly switched it off. No dramatic failures, no headlines, just another successful pilot that slowly became irrelevant. Sitting in what I call the pilot graveyard, not because it failed, but because nobody ever gave it a future. Now let's look at the second organization. The launch wasn't as excited, but instead of asking, what is our next AI project? They asked a different type of question. So they gave it a recurring budget, appointed one accountable owner, agreed on a roadmap, and documented how it would be retired if it no longer created value. Nothing about that is glamorous, but that's exactly why it works. That capability is still running, still improving. Not because the model was extraordinary, but because the organization built an environment where success could continue. The model wasn't the difference. The prompts weren't the difference. And trust me, the technology wasn't the difference either. One organization gave its AI a home. The other gave it a round of applause. Pilots don't scale. Operating models do. A pilot proves that something can work, while an operating model is the actual reason it keeps working. I want to turn this into something practical for you. This isn't a new framework, it's just one exercise. Think about one AI capability you're genuinely proud of. Not 10, just one. Grab a piece of paper and write down 5 words. Funding, ownership, roadmap, run, and decommission. And please don't write descriptions, write names. Who is paying for this next year? Whose name goes next to ownership? One person, not a department. Who decides what this becomes next? And who gets the call when something breaks? 5 words, 5 names. And if you find yourself writing the project team, or we'll decide it later, or this is shared responsibility, you already found the weakest part of your operating model. Not because your AI isn't good, but because your organization hasn't decided who owns its future. So fix the empty box, because it is easier to define ownership before hundreds of people depend on the capability then. If the person who built your best AI pilot resigns tomorrow, would it still be delivering value a year from now? Before we wrap up this season, one final thought. Across these 6 episodes, I've used examples from large organizations, but don't let enterprise fool you. These ideas, they exist the moment you delegate work to AI, whether you're one person or 100,000. Think about a freelancer whose AI workflow drafts proposals or manages invoices. Just something helping them run their business. Who is maintaining it while they're busy serving clients? Can they still trust it in 6 months from now? Today, you know exactly how it works, because you built it. But next year, will you open the folder and think, I'm going to have to figure this out all over again? We have all done it. The personal version of the pilot graveyard abandoned automations that solve a real problem until life got busy. We have all done it. The technology was never the problem. Nobody was maintaining it. The scale is, of course, smaller. The principle isn't though, because this season was never about enterprise AI. It is about building a system people can trust every ordinary Tuesday that follows launch day. Okay, this is it. This is the season. 6 episodes, 1 framework, 5 layers. Again, governance, clean data, standardized processes, control, and the operating model that holds it together. AI capability isn't something you create once. It is something you maintain. And if there is only one line from this entire season that I want you to remember, it is this one. Your AI maturity will never exceed your operational maturity. Because this is the idea behind everything we've covered this season. AI capability isn't limited by the intelligence of the models. It's limited by the quality of the operations surrounding it. A better model inside a weak operation just creates bigger problems, faster, while a capable model inside a mature operation creates real leverage. And that's why the companies that win with AI will not necessarily be the ones with the most advanced models. They will simply be the ones that know how to operate them. These 5 layers aren't just the season structure. They are the map this whole channel is built on, and every episode going forward is going to reference them. This brings us to the end of Season 1. The 5 layers were the map. Season 2 will be the terrain, and we're gonna move from the foundation into the real world challenges. How these principles hold up inside actual teams, how operators turn AI from an experiment into a repeatable advantage. Before you go, 3 things, and then I'm done. If this season was worth your time, the free AI Ready Operations Assessment is in the description. The second one, there is 1-page cheat sheet for each layer. The whole map on 1 page, linked below, so keep them. And if layer 5 specifically is where you felt the itch, the Digital Transformation Operating Model Toolkit turns these 5 words into an actual operating model on paper. Again, I'll link it below. Finally, if you want to follow where this goes next, please consider subscribing, and Season 2 will find you. Remember, don't build better AI, build better operations.